Canada's economy is crashing, and Mark Carney is getting ignored by Donald Trump because he's too busy raging at India for being a bad trading partner and a bad ally, which he should. Funny thing is about the whole situation is Canada could have prevented this India situation had they made the right decisions. Canada doesn't like to make the right decisions, and that's why in this rare instance, Canada gets to give the U.S. a warning. The writing is on the wall. There has been a major increase in international worker fraud and student visa scamming in the U.S. This is something Canada has been dealing with for years. It's how India managed to come in such a short amount of time and take over. The scamming is rampant, and so you need to be warned, America. We're going to talk about all that. I have some scary footage at the end of this video. It is a warning from Canada. What could happen to America? Let's get into it. First, just a couple quick Canada updates. Mark Carney basically admitting that Donald Trump's ignoring him.
Hi, Prime Minister Carney. Brady Strachan, CBC Kelowna. Have you spoken to Donald Trump in recent days, and will you retaliate with more counter tariffs, including on American steel, or countermeasures or lift countermeasures already in place?
Thank you for the question. I haven't spoken to the president in recent days. We'll speak when it makes sense. With respect to steel specifically.
I love that he tries to frame it like he's controlling the conversation. I'll speak to Trump when it makes sense. Yeah, I haven't heard back from him for a couple of days, but when it makes sense, I'll speak to him. Speaking of this announcement, this whole thing that he's holding his press conference for is basically to say, yeah, we're going to spend billions of dollars to make sure that the Canadian lumber industry can compete against the U.S.
We announced a comprehensive approach on steel 2 weeks ago, which included significant support for repositioning, significant support for Buy Canadian, and with respect to, if I can draw some distinctions, with respect to softwood lumber, obviously the core of the demand domestically, not all of it, but the core of the demand, or much of the increase in demand, can be through our new approach to home building in this country. With steel, the defense procurement comes into play. The broader infrastructure investments is part of our building national projects of national significance and the requirement.
So very funny. Two big things there. He changed it from the nation building projects to projects of national significance. So already we're downgrading the size of projects. He also said recently Canada is going to become our own biggest customer. No problem with supporting local, no problem with buying local. But right now, the only opportunity for growth, because America is winning all of the international investment from private companies, including Canadian companies, going down to the U.S., the only option, the only investor in Canada right now is the Canadian government. What's that resulting in? Stories like this.
As residential construction ramps up in Edmonton to address the housing crisis, builders and consumers are facing a major hurdle: U.S. tariffs and counter tariffs, driving up costs while the market cools.
Our customers that we've been working with, they have been extremely cautious in terms of closing a deal, and every time we talk to them, the tariffs is on their mind. And for us as builders, our prices have escalated and increased, I would say about 20%. And then every time we go back to the customers about these prices, it just sends another negative vibe for them to close the deal. So we have been affected by this, and the uncertainty is affecting our sales.
Yep.
Industry leaders say it's not the U.S. tariffs directly impacting costs.
It's the Canadian tariffs that we put on in response to the U.S. tariff.
Yes, so the Canadian government won't get a deal done with the U.S., and Trump's already moving on. He doesn't care about Canada anymore. He's moving on to the bigger problems of India, as he should. I'm glad India is finally getting called out for their bad business practices. I talked about this in a video maybe a year ago. This is something that the writing was already on the wall for this.
Carlos, so Dan Muser is a Republican from Pennsylvania, joins me now. Carlos, okay, we've gone through this. India is going to be heavily tariffed because they buy and sell Russian oil. My question is, are tariffs now a foreign policy weapon?
Hey, Stuart. Well, I won't know about a weapon, but it's certainly a way to even things out and to make things how they should be fair. And what I mean by that is this. Look, India buys a tremendous amount of Russian oil. before the Ukrainian invasion, India was buying 1% of its oil only from Russia.
1%.
Because of some deal that was made where it was allowed for Russia to sell at a lower price, their purchases went up to 40% of their overall capacity. So that's gas backwards in the first place. That was
to 40%. 1 to 40. That's quite the change. And like you said, there was a back end deal that basically happened. Russia, because people don't know this, once the gas pumps start, you can't turn them off. You got to just keep the oil and gas moving. So what happened is they sent it over to India at discounted rates, and they said, yeah, we'll repackage it and start selling it to the world, including Europe. And Europe was the ones who put the sanctions in the U.S. on Russia, why they couldn't buy their stuff. And at the time, people were saying, hey, if Canada had the infrastructure set up, they could be supplying any of these countries that Russia was supplying. And what did Canada do? No development, no building.
A ridiculous deal that I know the President Trump is correcting. But on the trade side, look, we've been very patient with India, right? Poor country, all that, trying to help. They've had a 30 to 40, depending upon the product, 70%, 100% on cars, tariffs on us. And we've had a 2%, 2.3% tariff on them. It's kind of like this. It's like a friend that you've been lending money to for years. And then you say, hey, bud, you need to start paying us back. And they get very mad at you and say, hey, you're not an ally, you're not a friend. It's very similar to that. President Trump is going to be correcting a lot of wrongs here, and one of them has to do with this Russian oil situation. I mean, imagine this. Here we are, American people are putting in $250 billion towards defense of the Ukraine, and yet we're letting countries like India, our so-called allies, fortify the Russian war machine with the oil purchases.
Yeah, that's the thing. Again, Russian war machine working with India. India knows what they're doing. Relying on India as being like a strong, reliable, trusted ally is like insane to me. And here's Trump actually weighing in himself, and he was not happy.
With India, what people don't like to say about India, they're the highest tariff nation. They have the highest tariff of anybody. We do very, very little business with India because their tariffs are so high. So India has not been a good trading partner because they do a lot of business with us, but we don't do business with them. So we settled on 25%, but I think I'm going to raise that very substantially over the next 24 hours because they're buying Russian oil, they're fueling the war machine, and if they're going to do that, then I'm not going to be happy.
He is not happy, and it's funny because, again, you can connect all of this to Canada being so bad at developing industry because they said they were going to be cracking down on India, basically taking them on as their new trade deal target. What happened after this was announced? We got articles like this. Russia weighs Ukraine air truce offer to Trump without ending war. The reason why is because they've been getting their war machine funded through India. Again, if Canada was in a position to be supplying oil and gas to all of these countries that Russia has been making money off of. And I'm not even an anti-Russia guy. I'm a pro-Canada guy. Canada could have made all of that money, and it potentially would have slowed and stopped the war. And people forget that stuff like this has been going on since 2014 or longer. One of the biggest pieces of feedback people always said, well, I mean, how could we have known? It happened in 2022, and you can't build a pipeline that fast. It's been going on a lot longer than that, and Canada has been shutting down pipelines for the last 20 years. And years ago, Trudeau was asked about this directly. Trudeau douses excitement over East Coast gas exports, calling business cases weak. So he was shutting down pipelines that would have avoided India, one, making all of that money. I would have rather that been Canadian money. And two, the money going back to Russia as well. Speaking of India and their scamming, I know, who would have thought Indians being accused of scamming? We have this article out of India. Did you like the video yet? We're trying to get these videos out in front of more people. We're trying to grow the channel. If you like what we talk about here, feel free to subscribe. I'd love to have you on board. Let's get back to it. U.S. plans to scrap H1B exemption for universities. Will foreign students be the first to go? For years, a quiet but crucial clause in the U.S. immigration system has acted as a vital lifeline for international students hoping to remain in the country after graduation. This provision allowed accredited American universities and nonprofit research institutions to directly hire foreign graduates under the H1B visa program. This is the important part. Without having to compete in the tech-heavy, highly competitive, and frequently oversubscribed lottery system. And they were using this to jump the line in front of everybody else who was trying to come to America legally. Well, we had the exact same thing happening in Canada, and we ended up with millions of Indians. So we need to warn the Americans, hey, they will find a loophole. They even call it a backdoor themselves that powered academic dreams. Unlike tech companies, universities were exempt from the H1B cap, allowing them to sponsor skilled foreign workers year-round without uncertainty of a lottery. This exemption didn't just help universities, sure, but helped students plan futures. No group is more vulnerable to this change than Indian students. Wow, what a surprise. They were the ones overusing it. They account for over 70% of all H1B petitions and form the largest international student demographic in American graduate programs. As US tightens visa options, countries like Canada, Germany, and the UK and Australia are doing the opposite. Streamlining immigration paths. Again, this is supposed to be a temporary study, lowering post-study barriers and marketing themselves to the very talent the US might turn away. Already, Indian students are shifting their gaze. Consultants and education agents, sure, that's a very political way to say scammers, report a steady uptick in applicants choosing Germany and the Netherlands. And there is a reason for that. Finally, after all of these years, Canada started to close this loophole. It took years, and we literally brought in millions of Indians through this scam, through this backdoor thing. And now that they're getting denied because they were sold a dream back in India, they were told, if you come to Canada as an international student, you do an 8-month program at some diploma mill, fake college, you will get a postgraduate work permit automatically in Canada. So you're allowed to start working after 8 months, and then you get access to healthcare, and then you get access to all of these things. And then boom, you're in, because if you get a job and you got your postgraduate work permit, then you're most likely to get PR. And then what happens if you get PR? You bring your entire family over. But then they closed that loophole, and the Indians started to get sent home, and it resulted in articles like this. And this is why Americans need the warning. Foreign student asylum claims hit record high in 2024, set to grow in 2025. We have not had the updated numbers in 2025 of the asylum claims from India. They were international students as self-sufficient students, but as soon as they didn't get the work permit, they claimed asylum. And in Canada, you get tens of thousands of dollars if you do that. And the Canadian asylum system is so backed up already, and these people get to stay in Canada for roughly 3 to 5 years on these asylum claims, where they get an estimated economic value of $82,000 given to them. That's just on the student side, Americans. The foreign worker part is even worse. An Indian-run IT staffing outsourcing companies advertising for H1B only positions in Charlotte. Exarca Inc. is registered in Texas to Deepish Jen Praveen Junia. Okay, nonsense names. Not even going to say it. But here they are advertising these roles, and they're saying, oh, look, you know, it's these Indian-run companies. They're advertising it back in India. They're using it to skip the line. We are seeing cases where they don't even take time to advertise to Americans. Canada had the same problem. Again, hundreds of thousands of people, Americans, came through this scam. Most of them Indian. Your population is larger. If you 10x these numbers, it could be abused by millions of workers. Online ads illegally sell jobs to temporary foreign workers. Deals selling job offers to foreign workers for up to $45K. Outright fraud, says Toronto lawyer. So what they were doing in Canada to get an H1B visa, we call it an LMIA for a temporary foreign worker. Basically, all you have to do as a company is pay $1,000, put out your LMIA, and now you can hire anybody from India. What was happening is Indians decided, I can start fake businesses and start selling the jobs directly. It took less than 5 minutes on the phone for a man selling a job on Kijiji to name his price, $25,000. So they say, look, we're going to pay for this LMIA fee. You get to come over. You get a job. Just pay us $25K. Now you're allowed to work in Canada. This was used and abused by Indians to an extreme extent, and we got insane population growth in Canada almost exclusively from Indians. And this is the warning. I'm going to show you the horror stories of how we're going to end up like this. But our politicians loved it. Look at this. They're bragging that we're growing faster than the U.S.
It's the fastest growing region in North America, bar none. Last year, we brought in over 800,000 people. So we're bringing more people than both Texas and Florida combined.
More than Texas and Florida combined to a single province. How can you possibly say that that's a good thing? It's insane that our politicians brag about this, and then we end up with charts like this. Immigrants to Canada by country. Number 1, by a large margin. It's literally 2.5 times the next one, the Philippines, which we get a lot from the Philippines too. I just like the Filipinos. India, 660,000 in a single year. And these numbers are always behind. They're always revised and added to because it's like, oh, well, we didn't include the family reunification visa and all of these other things. So what's going to happen if you continue to pump in unlimited Indians? Well, in Canada, we've called it Operation Curry Bomb because this is how we're going to take out the US. However, then your public places start to look like this. I don't know if you guys can see. There's lots of groups of Indians. This is pretty much every like tourist area you go to, every public place. Look, this is like an extreme example of it, but it continues to get more and more extreme as the people who came over on the fake student visas, on the fake temporary foreign worker permits, on all of those things. Like, I'm not joking. In Canada, it was millions of Indians in a decade. Millions of just Indians from India. It really happened in 5 years, basically. But I don't think we had the ability to absorb them. I understand we got Operation Curry Bomb in place. If we keep bringing over cheap foreign labor, we're going to take on Americans. I do think, however, if the only way that businesses in Canada are able to operate and take on the Americans is by bringing in Indians, maybe we have to figure out other business models, because I keep seeing this stuff online like, well, you know, without all of these people, like this subway in this area would have to shut down. Then that subway shuts down. I don't care. Your footlongs are like $18 now. I don't care if the subway has to shut down because they can't get enough workers. First of all, that's a lie anyways. There's a lineup of youth trying to get jobs who would work at Subway. And again, obviously you can see that this is a mass amount of people. This became a huge voter bloc in Canada. So every single politician is basically pandering to them now. So the decisions are made around Indians first. And then you have announcements like this, where a 51-foot idol of Lord Ram, the tallest in North America, was unveiled in Mississauga on Sunday, which is just outside of Toronto. And I can't believe that we keep getting announcements like this and people are like, yeah, that's good. I want this foreign demon god statue in my city. Look at this thing. This is what happens if you don't crack down on the Indians scamming early. So this whole like, and this is the other ultimate big warning that I have for people is straight up from an economic standpoint, what people don't understand. Yes, okay, is it very frustrating that we now have the tallest statue of some random demon god in Mississauga outside of Toronto? Yes, that's very frustrating. But the worst part is all of these people are being used to subsidize India in the same way that they were finding a way to scam their way to oil. These people all send money back home. You can see charts. It's insane the amount of money that constantly is growing, being sent back. Like they have all this transaction value of all the, like the foreign exchange and all that stuff, and all of the money that gets sent back to India from America, from Canada, from the UK, from Germany. So it's a hollowing out of wealth from these nations because these people come over in mass, send all of that money back home, and it's devastating because you lose the velocity of money in the economy not being spread around because it's getting sent back to India. So at the expense of domestic workers, these people are taking the H1B visa jobs. These people are taking jobs in Canada. So foreign workers suffer, wages get pushed down in North America, and then that money gets sent back to India to subsidize their living. It's an insane concept. This needs to be stopped. I think both the US and Canada need a complete moratorium on immigration from India. It needs to be shut down. And that's on top of, you know, the trade stuff that needs to be dealt with. Because as this trade stuff's going on, Donald Trump did make a trip and he said, oh my gosh, India looks like an asshole. That's Canada, Mr. President. It's okay, Donald. We have that same issue here too, as you saw from the videos that I just showed. Speaking of, though, Donald Trump was just acting hilarious today with everything going on. He's randomly just started walking around the White House. They're trying to ask him questions. He starts talking about missiles from the ceiling, like, hey, what are you looking to build? Missiles.
Mr. President, what do you want to build? What are you trying to build? Sir,
Do you approve
You saying more missiles? Are you building missiles?
Oh, he's just on the roof.
What? Come on, Dad.
Might be missiles.
Did you say missiles?
As we can see, Canada's economy is not doing well. We were relying on immigration for all of the growth. And then once these trade wars started and Canada started to get hit, there was no fundamentals. And those fundamentals could have been built so that India would not have had the opportunity to supply Russian oil and gas to the world so that both of them could make money at the expense of North America. Canada and the US need to build stronger relationships because that would take away all of these foreign problems. We also need to make sure we crack down on the Indian scamming. US, this is a warning from Canada. You saw the videos, what the demographics are shifting to. You don't want that to happen, and it's at the risk of getting worse for you guys. But if you made it this far in the video, you absolutely rock. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Trying to get these videos out in front of more people, grow the channel. If you want to support the channel, link is down below. You can do it through YouTube or the link I've provided. Thank you, and have a great rest of your day.